"Are you absolutely certain?" asked Grand Minister Paxson, his four eye stalks quivering with what I recognized as disbelief. "The data is conclusive." Science Director Tula nodded, her azure scales catching the light from our three suns. "Yes, Minister. The primitive bipeds of Sol 3 have achieved faster than light travel. The impossible has happened." The Galactic Council meeting room fell into what you humans might call a pin-drop silence. Not that we Vexorians understand your obsession with dropping sharp metal objects to measure quietness. Your species has such bizarre metaphors. But I digress. "Well," huffed Military Commander Vork, his massive frame leaning forward, "that's just fantastic. Another problem species. Just what we needed this cycle." "Survey Officer Zax, you have studied these humans," said Paxson, turning his attention to me. "What is your assessment?" I remember thinking how amusing it was. Humans. Those strange, soft-bodied creatures who had only recently figured out how not to poison their own atmosphere had somehow stumbled upon the quantum secret that had taken our civilization 3,000 years to discover. Pure dumb luck, obviously. "The humans are remarkably resourceful but fundamentally harmless," I began, bringing up my holo displays. "Their technology is crude. Their FTL drive appears to be an accidental discovery during experiments with their planetary magnetic field. They have no weapons capable of threatening a galactic-class vessel." I straightened my posture reflexes, feeling all eyes in the chamber focus on my report panel. This was my moment. 6 cycles of monitoring that watery blue planet, and now everyone wanted my expertise. Funny how that works. "But their behavioral patterns," pressed Tula. Commander Vork snorted through his breathing vents. "They sound like children playing with fire." I flicked to the next display. "Chaotic, unpredictable. They spend most of their time watching fictional entertainment and arguing over meaningless status symbols. They are divided into hundreds of competing factions. No unified planetary government, no coherent military strategy." "That's an apt comparison," I replied, allowing myself a small expression of amusement. "They have had nuclear weapons for less than 200 years and have nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. They create problems, and then scramble to solve them only to create new problems. And now these accident-prone monkeys have FTL capability." Paxson shook his head, eye stalks wobbling in disbelief. The council chamber filled with the clicking sounds of Vexorian laughter. "Correct, Minister. Their first interstellar vessel launches tomorrow. The Horizon Explorer, crude design, minimal shielding, 48 crew members, Proxima Centauri. They are aiming for the nearest star with potentially habitable planets." Vorkig's expression darkened. "Destination?" The chamber fell silent again. Everyone knew what that meant. Proxima Centauri was the location of our primary monitoring outpost for that sector. "What are you suggesting?" asked Tula, her scientific curiosity evident. "We have never interfered with an emergent species before." Paxson nodded slowly. "I concur, the risk is too great. This cannot be permitted," declared Vork, rising to his full height. "These humans cannot be allowed to discover our presence. Not yet. Not until we understand their full capabilities and intentions." I found myself speaking before I could stop my vocal organs. "With respect, Commander, I advise caution. My research suggests humans respond unpredictably to threats." Vork's face split into what humans would call a smile. "We Vexorians don't smile. Our facial expressions work differently, but I'd studied enough human behavior to recognize the predatory intent behind Vork's expression." "We fire a warning shot," said the commander. "Disable their ship before it reaches Proxima Centauri. Show them they are not ready for the stars. Send them scurrying back to their little blue planet to contemplate their insignificance for another few centuries." Vork dismissed my concern with a wave of his upper limb. "Survey Officer Zax, your job was to observe them, not coddle them. The Council will handle this matter now." And just like that, I was sidelined. 6 cycles studying humanity, and they dismissed my expertise in a moment. If I'd been human, I might have felt what they call anger. As a Vexorian, I simply noted the inefficiency of ignoring relevant data. 3 solar rotations later, I stood on the observation deck of our flagship, the Immutable Truth, watching as Commander Vork prepared to teach humanity its first interstellar lesson. The human vessel Horizon Explorer had just emerged from its FTL bubble, its engines glowing with primitive energy signatures. "Ignore it," replied Vork. "Fire when ready." "Sir," said Weapons Officer Jix, "the human vessel is attempting communication." "Target their propulsion systems," ordered Vork. "Minimal damage. We want them limping home with a story, not floating dead in space." I watched as our ship's primary particle beam lanced out, striking the human vessel's engine section. The beam was calibrated perfectly, enough to disable their systems without destroying the ship. The humans' reaction was immediate, and for once predictable. Their ship went dark. Emergency systems activating. They began broadcasting distress signals in multiple frequencies, including some we didn't even monitor. "See?" said Vork, turning to me with an expression of smug satisfaction. "Simple and effective. They will drift for a while, fix their basic systems, and crawl back to Sol 3 with their manipulator appendages tucked between their locomotion limbs." "Commander," said Jex, his voice tense, "I'm detecting energy buildups in the human vessel. They appear to be redirecting power." Vork frowned. "To what?" "Their weapons are negligible." I nodded, but something felt wrong. The humans weren't behaving quite as expected. Their communications had stopped abruptly, and their ship was changing configuration. Vork actually laughed. "What are they doing? Trying to scare us with fireworks?" Before Jex could answer, the human ship erupted with activity. Panels along its hull slid open, revealing what appeared to be improvised weapon ports. And then they fired. Not at us, which would have been futile given our shields. No, they fired at the space around us. Multiple projectiles, spreading in a pattern that made no tactical sense. "Shields at 80%, reported Jex, his voice rising in alarm. "They are using some kind of quantum disruption technology." I studied the readings with growing concern. "Sir, those aren't conventional weapons. They are, I'm not sure what they are." The projectiles detonated, creating what appeared to be localized spatial distortions. Small, unstable wormholes that collapsed almost instantly, but not before sending cascading feedback through our sensors. I accessed my research files frantically. "Sir, I'm finding references in their scientific journals, theoretical papers on weaponizing their FTL principles. They called it Project Thunderclap. It was considered impractical, but impossible," declared Vork. "Their civilization is nowhere near that level of advancement." "But they built it anyway," finished Vork, his confidence wavering for the first time. Typical human inefficiency. The human ship was moving now, its damaged engines somehow propelling it in an erratic pattern. More projectiles launched, creating a web of spatial distortions around our vessel. "Evasive maneuvers," ordered Vork. "Sir," replied the pilot, "the spatial distortions are affecting our navigation systems. Predictive algorithms are failing." "This is absurd," muttered Vork. "Fire main weapons. Destroy them." I watched in disbelief as the primitive human vessel, damaged and outmatched, somehow managed to trap our technologically superior warship in a web of quantum disruptions. "Sir," protested Jex, "our weapon systems are compromised by the spatial distortions. Firing now could result in feedback damage to our own systems." Vork slammed his limb against the command console. "These are primitives. How are they doing this?" I had a theory, but Vork wouldn't want to hear it. Humans, in my observation, had a unique talent for weaponizing their own failures. Where Vessorians sought perfection, humans embraced chaos. The communication system crackled to life. A human face appeared on our main display, female, middle-aged by their standards, with dark skin and determined eyes. "This is Captain Amara Fuentes of the Earth vessel Horizon Explorer," she said, her voice remarkably calm for someone in her position. "You fired upon an unarmed research vessel without provocation or warning. This constitutes an act of war under any civilization's standards." Vork stepped forward, his massive frame dominating the camera feed. "Your vessel has been disabled as a warning. Return to your home system. The stars are not for primitives." The human captain's expression didn't change, but I noticed a slight tightening around her eyes, what humans call anger, though much more controlled than most examples I'd studied. I stepped forward, ignoring Vork's warning glare. "Captain Fuentes, I am Survey Officer Zax. We believed your sudden acquisition of FIT-TL technology posed a potential threat to galactic stability. We activated our Thunderclap defensive system because you left us no choice," she replied. "But we don't want war. We want to understand why you attacked us. So you shot us. The human's voice carried what they call sarcasm, a communication technique I'd always found fascinating. That's one hell of a first contact protocol. Captain Fuentes' expression hardened. I see. Well, here's something you should understand about humans, Commander. We respond to threats. Proportionally. I winced internally. Not the diplomatic approach I would have recommended. This is not first contact, snapped Vork. This is pest control. The communication cut off. Moments later, our sensors detected dozens of new energy signatures emerging from FTL near the edge of our detection range. Dex studied his console with growing horror. Sir, they appear to be human vessels. 47 of them, all armed with the same technology. What is that? Demanded Vork. I accessed my research files again, scanning for information I might have missed. Sir, I'm finding references to something called the Manhattan Protocol, a contingency plan for first contact scenarios. They built a fleet in secret, paralleling their public space program. Impossible, whispered Vork. Their records showed only one FTL-capable vessel. The realization hit me with the force of a quantum disruptor. Humans didn't just stumble upon FTL technology. They had been preparing for this moment. Their chaotic, inefficient society had somehow maintained the discipline to create a secret fleet without our surveillance detecting it. Commander, she said, I believe we have your attention now. Vork's face had lost its confident expression. Hail their lead vessel. Captain Fuentes appeared on screen again, this time standing on what was clearly a military bridge, not a research vessel. Her civilian attire had been replaced by a uniform. Insurance, replied Fuentes simply. Humanity has always understood that the universe might not be friendly. The Horizon Explorer was genuine, a peaceful research mission. But we weren't naive enough to send it alone. What is the meaning of this deception? Demanded Vork. I couldn't help but admire the strategy. It was so human. Hide your strength, present a vulnerable target, see how the unknown entity responds. And we had failed the test spectacularly. Vork was many things, but he wasn't a fool. He recognized when tactical advantage had shifted. What are your terms, Admiral? This is Admiral Dax Peterson, said a new human who stepped into view. Older male, with pale skin and what humans call a beard. Commander, you have exactly one opportunity to de-escalate this situation. Vork glanced at me silently, asking for assessment. For the first time in my career, I felt what humans might call smugness. I recommend full compliance, Commander, I said. The humans have demonstrated both technological capability and tactical restraint. They could have opened fire immediately, but chose communication instead. First, you will provide full medical assistance to the crew of the Horizon Explorer, said Peterson. Second, you will share the location of all your monitoring stations in our star system and neighboring system. Third, you will arrange a proper diplomatic meeting with whatever authority governs your civilization. No more than we deceived them, I replied. We have been monitoring their planet for cycles without revealing ourselves. Restraint? Hissed Vork quietly. They deceived us. Admiral Peterson's voice interrupted our exchange. We are waiting for your response, Commander. Vork straightened, somehow managing to look dignified despite the circumstances. We accept your terms, Admiral. A medical team will be dispatched to your damaged vessel immediately. I will provide coordinates for our outposts, and I will contact the Galactic Council to arrange formal diplomatic relations. Peterson nodded curtly. Good. Captain Fuentes will oversee the medical evacuation. I suggest you be extremely courteous to her crew. After the communication ended, Vork turned to me, his eye stalks drooping in what I recognized as humiliation. You studied these creatures for 6 cycles. How did you miss this? I considered my answer carefully. Commander, I reported that humans are remarkably resourceful and unpredictable. I reported that they create problems and then scramble to solve them. What I failed to emphasize was how exceptionally good they are at solving problems once they are motivated. Now, I said, we have motivated an entire species to solve the problem of dealing with us. I suggest we proceed with extreme caution. And now, asked Vork, 3 rotation periods later, I found myself in an unprecedented position, serving as the Galactic Council's official liaison to humanity. My expertise, so recently dismissed, was now considered essential. Funny how quickly priorities shift when facing a species that can reconfigure an exploration vessel into a quantum weapons platform within minutes of being attacked. I was shuttled to Earth itself, the first Voxorian to officially set foot on the planet I'd studied from orbit for so long. The landing site was Washington, D.C., one of their governmental centers. The architecture was primitive but impressive in its own way. Survey Officer Zax greeted Admiral Peterson as I emerged from my shuttle. "Welcome to Earth." Peterson's expression was guarded but not hostile. "Let's be clear, Officer Zax. This piece is provisional. Your people fired the first shot. We are still deciding how to respond long-term." "Thank you, Admiral," I replied, attempting the human gesture called a handshake with my upper limb. "I appreciate the opportunity for peaceful contact." I nodded. "Understandable. My government deeply regrets the actions of Commander Vork. He has been reassigned." Peterson led me to a ground transport vehicle, a sleek, silent machine that hovered slightly above the road surface. "You will be meeting with the United Earth Council today. Representatives from all major Earth governments." "United Earth Council?" I queried, accessing my files. My records indicated no unified planetary government. What I didn't mention was that Vork had been demoted to monitoring an uninhabited gas giant in a remote system. The Galactic Council doesn't admit errors publicly, but they certainly correct them privately. Peterson's mouth curved in what humans call a smile, though this one contained little warmth. "We formed it 3 days ago, after your attack. Nothing unites humans like a common threat, Officer Zax." This was concerning news. In 3 days, humans had apparently overcome centuries of political division simply because we had fired upon one of their vessels. The implications were unsettling. "I see," I replied, attempting to sound neutral. "Impressive organizational efficiency." Peterson made a sound humans call laughter, though it carried more irony than humor. "That's one way to put it. Another is that you scared the hell out of every government on Earth, and for once they all agreed on something." The room was arranged in a circle, with representatives from what I assumed were various human political entities seated around a central space. At the center was a holographic display showing the Horizon Explorer, complete with damage assessments from our attack. The transport took us to a large domed building. The security was extensive, both human guards and what appeared to be autonomous defense systems. I was scanned multiple times before being allowed to enter the council chamber. I stepped forward, my limbs moving in the formal pattern of Voxorian diplomatic greeting. "Esteemed representatives of humanity, I bring greetings from the Galactic Council and our sincere apologies for the unfortunate first contact between our civilizations." "Representatives of Earth," announced a human at the podium, "I present Survey Officer Zax of the Voxorian Galactic Council." All eyes turned to me. Dozens of human faces, each showing different variations of the same emotions: curiosity, suspicion, and what they call determination. A human female with pale skin and red hair stood. "Officer Zax, I am Counselor Eliza Novak. Let me be direct. Your apology is noted, but insufficient. We need to understand why your people considered it appropriate to fire upon an unarmed research vessel without attempting communication first." I chose my words carefully. "Counselor, the Galactic Council has governed interstellar relations for 12,000 years. In that time, we have developed protocols for handling emergent spacefaring species. Commander Vork believed he was following those protocols by demonstrating superior capability without causing loss of life." "That's not a protocol," interrupted another human, male with dark skin. "That's intimidation." "Counselor Ajani is correct," said Novak. "On Earth, we would call that bullying, and humanity has a long history of standing up to bullies. Instead," said Admiral Peterson from behind me, "it encouraged us to reveal our defense fleet and accelerate our plans for expansion." I nodded, acknowledging the point. "Your perspective is valid. I believe our different evolutionary histories have led to different ethical frameworks. The Council believed the demonstration of power would encourage caution and gradual integration into the galactic community." The room fell silent. This was new information, even to me. Counselor Novak nodded to someone at a control panel. The holographic display changed, showing a map of nearby star systems. Several were highlighted. "Expansion?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. This was moving far faster than the Galactic Council had anticipated. Normally, after a species achieved FTL capability, there was a period of decades or even centuries before they began widespread colonization. These systems, she explained, have been designated as humanity's initial colonization targets. The first colony ships are already under construction. I see, I replied, struggling to maintain diplomatic composure. The Council may have concerns about such rapid expansion. The Earth Council isn't seeking conflict, added Novak, her tone softening slightly. We are seeking security. Your attack demonstrated that the galaxy is not as empty or as friendly as we hoped. We are adjusting accordingly. Admiral Peterson stepped forward. With respect, Officer Zax, the Council's concerns became secondary the moment they authorized an unprovoked attack on our vessel. I couldn't argue with his logic. By our own actions, we had forfeited the moral authority to dictate humanity's pace of development. Novak's expression hardened again. The same assurances you offered us, Officer Zax. None. But unlike your people, we won't fire the first shot. I nodded slowly. I understand, and I will convey your position to the Galactic Council. May I ask what assurances you can offer regarding peaceful coexistence? The meeting continued for several hours, discussing technical details of diplomatic relations, communication protocols, and boundary recognitions. Throughout it all, I couldn't shake a growing sense of what humans call unease. You seem troubled, Officer Zax, he observed as we traveled. After the meeting, Admiral Peterson escorted me to what would be my permanent residence on Earth, a facility designed for my physiological needs. It wasn't that the humans were being unreasonable. Quite the opposite. They were being scrupulously fair, given the circumstances. It was their efficiency that disturbed me. Their unity of purpose, their ability to adapt so quickly to an interstellar reality they hadn't known existed until days ago. And now you are seeing something different. Admiral, I replied honestly, in my 6 cycles studying humanity, I catalogued your divisions, your conflicts, your inefficiencies. I reported to my government that humans were clever but disorganized. I nodded. I'm seeing a species that can unify and mobilize with remarkable speed when threatened. It's not what we expected. Peterson was quiet for a moment. Then he said something I will never forget. You know what your people's mistake was, Officer Zax? You studied us at peace. You should have studied our wars. You studied our internal squabbles, he corrected. Civil wars, regional conflicts, but not how we respond to external threats. I did study your conflicts, I protested. Throughout our history, he continued, whenever humanity faced an existential threat, we set aside our differences, we innovate, we adapt, and we prevail. He turned to look directly at me, his eyes reflecting what humans call intensity. As I settled into my new role as liaison, I couldn't help but think about Commander Vork's fateful decision. One shot, one arrogant, dismissive attack meant to put a primitive species in its place. How could he have known that this particular primitive species had spent its entire evolutionary history fighting against nature, against predators, against itself, and in the process had become uniquely adapted to respond to threats? They fired the first shot, and I have a growing suspicion they will never hear the last of it. Human unpredictability became my area of expertise in the solar cycles that followed. Not by choice, mind you. The Galactic Council simply had no one else qualified after Commander Vorka's spectacular diplomatic blunder. I was the Vixorian who'd spent 6 cycles studying the bizarre bipeds before we foolishly shot at them. So naturally, I became the one responsible for managing the resulting chaos. You need to understand, I explained to the Emergency Council session 3 months after the incident, humans don't think like us. Grand Minister Paxson's eye stalks twitched with irritation. Yes, Survey Officer Zax, you have mentioned this approximately 37 times in your reports. And yet, I replied, unable to keep a note of frustration from my vocal modulator, we continue to misunderstand their responses. They are expanding faster than any species we have ever encountered, said Science Director Tilla, her scales dulled with stress. At this rate, they will have a presence in 50 systems within a standard year. The council chamber, once a place of ordered deliberation, now buzzed with nervous energy. The holographic displays showed the rapid expansion of human presence in nearby star systems. 17 colony ships launched. 4 permanent settlements established. mining operations on 32 asteroids and small moons, all in just 3 months.